Hello guys, in this video we will be talking about implementation of the model validation in minimal APIs. As we know that minimal APIs is one of the great feature of ASP.NET Core APIs, which provides us a freedom from the typical controller approach where we used to have the controller class which was derived from controller base, and then we used to put in the action methods on that, and then we used to write some logical statements into that, as well as we were writing some validations also in it. Now the thing is that like it's an additional class, it's an additional object that we have. So that the class, as per the architecture of our modern application, is supposed to have the action methods which connects to the business layer, data access layer, and all that. So with this minimal API, that traditional approach is completely eliminated. We can directly create endpoints with this minimal API in ASP.NET Core project. But one of the fact while working with the typical controller approach is that we had the access to the some core features of the ASP.NET Core MVC or ASP.NET Core API is the model validations, where we are having the model state dictionary, and then it used to provide us a model state object with its isValid property, with the help of which we used to check whether the model which is being sent through the post request or the put request is valid or not. Now that's absolutely perfect. But now what if that we are going for the minimal APIs? Then what to do in such cases? So here there is one thing, or I should say that's one of the best feature over here, is support for the Fluent validations. So this is my ASP.NET Core API project, and there I do have this Fluent validation. This is the package which is there, and this package basically provides us a facility to define validation rules on our model class. In a very traditional days, we go for this validation rules with data annotations. So if you are working with ASP.NET Core with Entity Framework Core, and if you are using the code first approach, then in that particular case, applying data validation becomes easier, manageable for us. But what if that we are going for the database first approach, where the models are generated, the code for the model classes and its properties are generated, and in that case, how to work with validations? This is challenging. So Fluent validation comes as a help for us, and this one gives us a freedom for applying the validation rule through some abstract mechanism. That's one of the best feature of the Fluent validation. Another thing is that since we are not making a use of any controller as an approach, so how we are going to write the validations with a minimal API? So minimal API, ultimately they directly expose the endpoint and accept the request. So how we are gonna ask our minimal API to validate the model first before processing the request? Because we don't have an access of the model state as a property over there. So what we can do in this case is that we can basically make a use of the endpoint filters, and this endpoint filters provides us a mechanism with the help of which we can write our own logic for doing the data validations or performing the data validations for the minimal API. So let's see that. So I have a models folder which has the product info class, and see that on this product info class there is no data annotations applied on that. Absolutely not. We do have the product ID, product name, these properties, and we don't have any annotation validations. So to implement this in the project, I have the another class or another folder, validators, which has the product info validator, and then this product info validator class is derived from the abstract validator class. This abstract validator class is a generic class which takes the generic parameter as the model class on which the validations are supposed to be implemented. And then in a constructor, the rules for validations are been defined. So that is what actually the thing is. So here I have the rule for method, the method coming from an abstract validator, which use the lambda expression, and then here we can define the validation rules. Now, let me take you to the definition of the abstract validator here. So I'll right click and then I'm going to take you to the definition of that. And see here that this implements iValidator interface, which is again generic. This provides us, so if I right click on the iValidator and again take you to the definition of that, this has a method validate async, which takes the T instance as a parameter. This T is actually the type. In our case, it's a model class on which we will be writing the validation rules using this abstract validator. That's the thing. So we have been provided with that necessary framework over there. Okay. Now, let me close this file and then I'm going to go back over here to the typical approach of the data validation. So I'm going to take you to the program.cs here, and the injection that has been done. So builder.services add scope. I have the product info type, like which has been passed as a type parameter to iValidator interface just before some time I have shown to you, and the class which is derived from the abstract validator. In fact, indirectly, it is implementing the necessary validation rules. Now, what I'm having over here is that I have the endpoint here, okay, API product, and then this is creating an instance of the product info validator class in this post request. So this is my post endpoint, which is having the product info as an input parameter. And then here the instance of the product info validator is created, and then what happens is that whatever the product info that has been posted here, right, it is been passed to the validate method, right, the validate method of the validator type. So let me right click on this validate method and take you to the definition of it. This is what that validate method is. Okay. The one which returns the validation result type, which decide that whether the data is valid or not based upon whatever the validation rules those are defined over here. Okay, something which is important, right? So this validate method will decide whether this product is valid or not, and then this validation result is valid as a property, and then if it is valid, then it will return the message that data is valid. Otherwise, it will return the message that it is invalid or bad request. So let me put a breakpoint on this. Okay, here. And then let me run this here. Right. So this will be loaded into the browser over there. Right. Continue. Fine. And here this is what my API/product write out. Now see that here this is using the camel casing, whereas we do have the Pascal casing that has been used. So when we are passing the data, we'll use the same Pascal casing over there. So I'll say P here, category manufacturer, description and price, and then let me not send this product name and category name. I'm not sending this. Let me make this as something like this. 10 manufacturer is M1, the description is something, and price, and then let me execute it. So here it is. I say available, and then my validations are being checked. Right. So this is saying the bad result. Say F5 here, right? And then I'm getting the error message here saying that the product ID is must, right? And the product name is must and the category name is must, right? So this is how that we are applying the straight away validations on the minimal API endpoints with the help of the Fluent validate. That's the thing. Okay. So we don't have access to the model state dictionary, but with the Fluent validator, we are going to do that. In the next video, we will see that how we are going to write one validator just with the help of the endpoint filter. So let's see that, but that's in the next video. Thank you very much.